That's always been part of the DNA of the brand, even before my time. That is always based on organic ingredients. So that was always sort of the DNA of the brand. So there's never been a question to be non-organic or not.
Okay.
So we have always been organic. As a company, we also try to be as sustainable as we can as well. With how we ship, how we transport. The distillery is powered by solar panels.
Nice.
So we try to be as green as we can as well. Why? Well, it's not because it's cheap, but it's because it feels good in the heart. It feels good in the heart.
Absolutely.
So that's why we're doing what we do.
Matthias, thank you for being here today, and cheers.
Cheers, skål in Swedish.
Absolutely. What is it?
Skål.
Skål.
Skål. So
Skål.
it's a skull like the Vikings were drinking from the people they've killed. So we're drinking straight from the skulls. So skål.
Well, skål. Skål, my friend.
Delicious.
Wow, this is good.
Yeah. What do you have in your glass?
I do actually have the Navy gin.
Yeah.
Yes. Wow, this is actually really good.
It's an explosive of flavors in your mouth, right?
Yes.
You think maybe that is an overproof gin that will be strong in ethanol, but it's very, very smooth and just strong in the flavors.
It does have that. I'm gonna be honest, like I feel like this is the first time I'm drinking gin. No, this is really good.
You will always remember the first kiss.
So
so that's important.
I got a kiss from the Navy gin right now. So a little bit about yourself for our audience that they don't know you. I know you are a CEO, master blender, and co-owner of the Purity Vodka and Gin.
Exactly.
And you guys are from Sweden, right?
From Sweden, exactly.
Okay.
So very south of Sweden, there's a small village called Eslöv. So that's where the distillery is, and that's where still is, and that's where we produce Purity.
Okay. Well, these are some really good wine. I mean, some really good vodka and spirit that I have had the chance to try.
Yeah.
So, tell us about yourself.
Yeah, so I'm a Swede. I usually say that I have the best job in the world because these are my babies. I'm giving birth to, as a man, I actually give birth to spirits, so vodkas and gins, and I blend that. Of course, I don't do it myself. We have a whole team at Purity that do this stuff, but I have the honor of taking the spirits and blending them together and creating the products. I really love what I do, and I usually say that my goal when I started with Purity was, of course, to have like a martini in my glass and to have a very pure and clean and flavorful and smooth spirit. And that was always the leading star of the work I was doing, was trying to find this perfect balance between the flavors and the smoothness, etc. And that, of course, then became Purity.
And I think you guys delivered that.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
I think definitely you guys delivered that. This is something unique.
Yeah. Yeah, no, in the way we do it and how we start, everything is totally unique. We're actually with Purity. We don't take any shortcuts. We are into the details all the time, try to deliver as good flavor and smoothness as possible. And of course, everything starts all the way from the beginning, where we have organic winter wheat and organic malted barley that we have in the mesh build. And that is then blended together with a very fruitful yeast, and everything that is sort of bringing together what we call the distiller's beer. That's 10% ABV, and that's where Stefan, our master distiller, what he puts in the pot still, and start the distillation. Purity is about, and the word to remember is copper surface distillation. So that's how we name the way we do our spirits, how we distill. And the idea is to utilize the copper, the magic of the copper, during distillation to add purity, smoothness, and flavors. And of course, the idea for that came up from Leif Merhammars, and he was the laboratory director for the Swedish monopoly. And his research, he came into learnings of saying that the more you utilize the copper, the better it is. and he designed the process, the ingredients, and we use and the still how we utilize that. So all of that coming together, both ingredients and of course the craftsmanship by Stefan to distill the spirits, and of course that is then created what is the purity. The question I always get, of course, is why does it say 17, 34, and 51 on the bottles?
Yeah.
And the way it is that our still is a sort of special design by Leif. It's 17 individual distillation steps. So that's the explanation why there's a 17. So we do the cycle 17, or the cycle is 17 individual steps, and we run it one, twice, or 3 times.
Okay.
So the heart of the vodka is distilled, and you could also say for 6 hours, 12 hours, or 20 hours. And it is that different that makes everything. And I always get the question of is there a difference how you distill? Or if you distill more than twice, you will lose the personality in the vodka. And I always tell them, well, try purity first, and then we can talk afterwards. Because there's a huge difference when you taste the 1734 and the 51.
Right.
And everything is coming down to how you distill the spirits to create the smoothness, flavor, and the purity.
Right. If you don't mind, I'll bring the
Yeah.
mic a little bit forward to you. Oh, there,
Absolutely.
perfect.
Super.
Sorry, my apology.
No worries.
But no, I had a opportunity to try all of those product, and especially today it was a refreshing taste for me, and they definitely they can see the difference from, like, I feel like from that harshness and then a little bit soft and then way softer, and then of course you get the flavor to it. But let's go back. Let's go back and how everything is started. What made you to get to this business? And I know it's a family business, but how did the whole thing came together?
Yeah, so Purity was founded in 2011. They sold the first bottle. I wasn't around then. We purchased the brand in 2016 because they ran out of money. So that was very convenient for us. And back then they only had the 34 times distilled vodka. So that was the only thing, and it was just called Purity Vodka. There was nothing talking about how the distillation was made or anything like that. So of course, what we did when we started to own Purity, we started to develop the product. And the boring story was actually that I made a strategy saying, because I like to come up with ideas. So I made a strategy saying, okay, if I would own Purity, what would I do?
Oh, nice.
So I did a strategy that I called the summer strategy, because I did it during my summer vacation. And I presented it for my father in August, and I said, I've been thinking about this over the summer. What about this? And I had this idea of in 3 steps of sort of how to develop Purity in a better way. The first step was then to launch the 17 and 51, because as I said before, the question I always got was that, does it matter how you distill? And yes, it does, because it's a huge difference.
Absolutely.
So that's why we actually did the 17 and the 51, to show people that there was a big difference. We never thought that the 51 was going to be such a success as it is. So we thought that all the sales would be sort of the other
Coming
products,
from the
and
other
only
two.
5% would be 51. Today in US, almost 60% of what we're selling is the 51.
Come from 51, yeah.
So that is the number 1 product we have today. And of course, why? Well, it is the smoothest, it is the cleanest, and it's the sort of the purest of the 3 vodkas, of course.
That's awesome. I'm gonna change this mic a little bit. I feel like.
Is that better, so? Yeah, perfect. What was the question? Yes. So of course, that's how it started. The first phase was, of course, to do the vodkas, and how can we do the vodkas. Then the second phase was actually then to take the base spirit, our vodka, and create gins. So that was the second phase of the development, was to create gins. Because of course, what is a gin? Simply put, well, it's a flavored vodka.
Nice.
And it's the first flavored vodka that came around. Today you have grapefruit and whipped cream, but the first one was a gin, of course. So that was the second, and then we have the third step left, and that is not yet here.
Okay.
So we have a further step in the history of Purity to go.
Because some mysterious.
Yeah, so a little bit left.
Nice.
As well. So vodka and gins. So that's where we are today.
That's quite fantastic, honestly. And what you guys have done is completely unique. All
Thank
right,
you.
so we talked about like how the family was involved and how Purity was there, and then how you got involved with all of that. But today,
Yeah.
how is it feeling to be a blender, or how is it feeling to be in this industry?
Yeah.
How do you like it?
I would say that this is the best industry I've ever been in. And the reason for that is because everyone is so friendly. Everyone is so supportive. Everyone is so nice. I've been in the beauty business with various products. I've been in the telecom industry. I've been in the publishing business, etc. over the years. But the spirit business, everyone is just having a smile. Everyone is friends. And I just love it.
That's awesome.
And I have, of course, the opportunity in my work to meet a lot of nice people and to talk to people, and that gives me a lot of energy.
That's fun.
So I think I just love what I'm doing, and of course, playing around with spirits is quite fun. Of course,
coming up with that great product like this, why not, right?
Yeah, exactly.
No, this is really good, and then the smell of it.
Yeah, it's nice, isn't it?
Yes.
So
it's really good.
So of course, the balance is not, or the trick is not how to flavor a vodka. What anyone can flavor a vodka. But it needs to be delicious as well.
Absolutely.
So you need to find that balance, and that's the fun part of the job, is to really get that going and play with your taste buds. Then of course, what I like doesn't necessarily mean that you like it.
Right.
So of course you need to ask people, invite them in your development process of finding what is the good process of flavors. But you need to trust your taste buds, and then of course play with that.
So when it comes to the blending, that how is the process? I mean, do you get to blend the way that you like, or do you have to measure everything? Like, like if I want to make an example, compare it with the cooking.
Yeah.
The way that you cook, I mean, like everybody cook is completely different. Like I might not measure the amount of salt I'm putting in this to rice or soup or whatever, but some people measure it like ounce by ounce.
Yeah.
So with blending, do you go by measurement,
Yeah,
or do you just blend it the way that you like and something comes good?
During the development, of course, yeah, you play, but the importance, of course, is that every bottle should taste the same.
Right. That's after fact, though.
Exactly. So therefore, you need to have the recipe, of course.
Right.
So you need to know. Then the funny thing is that various things taste different when they are blended together than singular. So if you just taste maybe juniper liquid or flavor, if you mix that with thyme, it changes personality.
Oh, wow.
So therefore, it's not that easy as to say, okay, I'll take some juniper, some coriander, mix that, because together it's like 1 + 1 is equal to 3.
Right.
So we like to change a little bit. So you need to play around with that a little bit to make that sort of taste nice and get the balance.
To me, I kind of compare it to like a color.
Yeah,
when you put some
it's
colors
good.
and then there's a new color came up that you didn't even know about it.
No, it's like blue and yellow becomes green.
Correct.
So it's the same thing. So when you blend it, so that is the trick. Then of course we want, from a quality perspective, that it need to taste the same all the time. So therefore, it's important, of course, you have a good recipe.
I think you nailed it. Like that blue and yellow makes it green.
Yeah,
that's why one of your gins tastes a little bit of the lime or citrus flavor without having anything in it. Yes.
So that's what brings out different flavors. So that's the fun part of the job, of course, to find that. At the distillery, we have some class sometimes where we ask people to make their own gins. So of course they get different distillates. So there's coriander distillates, the cardamom distillates, the juniper distillates, and they mix them together. And it's quite fun to see what people are mixing together. Everyone always uses too much cardamom, and cardamom just kills everything. You can use cardamom to build the body in the gin, but it really kills the flavor. It becomes very Christmassy. With too much cardamom. So
that's pretty cool.
It's quite fun when people play around with that.
That's pretty cool. So these days now, with everything going on throughout the world, how did that affect you guys in Europe? We do have like craziness going in Russia. We have another craziness going in Middle East. Does that affect you guys at all?
Yeah, a lot. Well, of course, before that was COVID.
Right.
So that was a
Doesn't end.
yeah. So so it was super negative. And the big thing with COVID is that it stressed the whole logistic chain. You know, getting resources, getting bottles, getting labels from everywhere, shipping a product from Europe to US become 10 times more expensive. Well, not harder, but it took three times longer and it costed fortune. So the same cost of sending a pallet with boat was the same price as sending it by air freight before COVID. So it was a big difference, and it took a long time. So that was a big challenge. Then, of course, the war broke out in Ukraine, and Ukraine is a very important part of the European economy, being a big grain producer, and there's a lot of furnaces as well for doing glass. So that was, and also, of course, the whole energy side of it. A lot of the furnaces where we do the bottles, well, they were run on gas.
Right.
So how do you exchange that? And of course, that became super expensive. And we don't talk about just 2x the price. It became even more expensive. So the big challenge for us was actually the margin that just disappeared because of higher cost. And we can't increase the cost to the consumer. So we needed to absorb all of that, and that was very complicated and tricky. And just getting bottles can be hard. Getting ingredients are hard because, of course, even if we use Swedish winter wheat, for example, if you can't buy Ukrainian wheat, then they buy Swedish wheat. And of course, they sell that to the highest bidders, and then it's hard to find the wheat to produce the vodka, for example. So it's been a big challenge. So hopefully 2024 will be fantastic.
Fantastic. No, I love that. But it shows that every movement, whether it's kind of like a sickness disaster or if it's the war disaster, how change the whole entire business and how quick you guys need to adapt to the new situation in order to just survive.
I think the advantage we have is, we're the small kid on the block, so we're quite fast of how we're doing and how we're changing and adopting, and of course try to be creative of the resources we have.
That's good. I'm glad.
Yeah, thank you. No. But I'm looking forward to have a year without any world crisis.
I know, right?
That would be fantastic. Actually,
give me a breath.
Right?
No, that's absolutely right. And I feel like what you guys have done, it's amazing as far as being sustainable, being organic, and all of that. Which was that always the intention from day one?
Yes.
Okay.
That's always been part of the DNA of the brand, even before my time. That is always based on organic ingredients. So that was always sort of the DNA of the brand. So there's never been a question to be non-organic or not. Okay. So we have always been organic. As a company, we also try to be as sustainable as we can as well. How we ship, how we transport. The distillery is powered by solar panels. Nice. So we try to be as green as we can as well. Why? Well, it's not because it's cheap, but it's because it feels good in the heart. It feels good in the heart.
Absolutely.
So that's why we're doing what we're doing.
There's so much stuff with the Purity that is unique on its own way. Like even the bottle is super unique. Like this is not a bottle that I see a vodka or gin in it.
No, and the whole idea is, of course, the design that came up with it was, of course, it was actually my father that came with some ideas of this.
So it was custom design.
It's a custom designed bottle, and when you do your vodka, you do different cuts. So first you have the head, then you have the body, and then you have the tail. And of course, Stefan need to cut it so to utilize the heart of the vodka as much as possible. And that is sort of called the perfect cut. And then of course that got inspired to show the cut of that. So that's one of the ideas behind the bottle. Then the other one is, of course, us being Swedish with ice. So, of course, if you put the Purity Vodka bottle in the freezer and you take it out, it will be totally frosted. So it will look like an ice sculpture. So
like
it's
a
super,
diamond.
yes, it's super nice. So that's the whole idea
awesome.
of that.
I like that everything is kind of like unveiling and
Yeah.
unrevealing. Yeah.
So that's the
That's
idea.
awesome. And then, so what do you do in your free time as far as a drink? Do you usually drink vodka? Do you drink whiskey, wine? What do you
Wine,
drink?
I'm brought up in a wine family. Both my parents are heavy into
drinkers?
wines. Yeah,
Nice.
not drinking in volume, but it's a big interest of them. So, being in all different kinds of. So I'm brought up with wine tastings. Every weekend was wine tastings. My problem is that my nose is not good as my taste buds. So my mother have a fantastic, and my father, they have fantastic. They can just smell on the wine and they will place that in what region it is.
Wow.
But I need to get it into the mouth.
You gotta get
to taste it. But now I forgot the question again. But
I was asking if you drink mainly like wine or
yeah, no. So of course. You're brought up drinking wine to dinners, of course. But always when I have a dinner at home, if I have a dinner at Saturday, of course, I like all dinners to start with a cocktail.
Nice.
If you serve wine for your guests when they comes, of course, it's fun. Cheers. If you drink champagne, you send this signal that we are going to celebrate something. But if you offer your guest a cocktail, that means, of course, it's party. Let's have some fun. So I always start with a cocktail. Current favorite is a basil sour. So I love doing basil sours with the foam, with the egg white foam. I just think that's delicious to start with. And then, of course, you have maybe wine for the starter. Then I always do a special serving between the starter and the main course. So in Sweden, we like fish roe, caviar.
Okay. Yes.
So and there's a fish. I don't know what's in English. In Swedish is lörum, and it's sort of orange. So you put that on your hand like that. You have a cold shot of Purity in your hand,
Nice.
and you take that. And you get the saltiness of the caviar, and then you take your shot of vodka to that, and that's really nice. So I try to incorporate the spirits, and then of course main course wine perhaps. I eat a lot of fish, so then it's usually white wine. And then I also serve a small espresso. So I have small glasses of so I do a martini espresso as a main course. So in my household, I do all the cooking. So my wife do the desserts, but I do everything else. So when I prepare the other things, I serve all my guests a small espresso martini. And I think that's also a nice way of sort of giving your guests coffee and of course some extra vodka, so everyone laughs and they get woken up. So I really recommend to sort of, you can combine the wine or with spirits. In US here, of course, you drink, you have your martini to the dinner and you get your second one doing main course.
Exactly.
In Europe, we drink a little bit more wine to the food, but I like
Which
when you
makes sense.
incorporate the spirits in between the different courses during your dinner.
So speaking of martini, and I know you're expert of making martini and you love your martinis,
Yes,
especially in US. I think espresso martini has found the new kind of home in Americans' heart. Like everybody loves it. What is your best way of making espresso martini?
Yeah, so before that, I will say there's 3 types of martinis.
Right.
It's the classic one. That's what we, with vermouth and gin or vodka. That's the classic.
That's what we
one.
have today.
Yes. Then you have the relatives to the martini, and they are of course relatives that you can have whiskey or you do other things, or you have a different. You have Dubonnet. So the queen, the late queen in England, she always drank a Dubonnet gin. That was her type of martini. So I'll call that that's a relative. And then you have neighbors. And neighbors to the martinis they share the same house. So they share the same cocktail glass, the martini glass. So of course the espresso martini is a neighbor to the classic martini. So that's how I define that. So
I can see that, yeah.
they don't have that much similarities, except of course, that they're served in a martini glass. So that's the difference. The way I do my espresso martini is that I do it 5-5-2.
Okay.
So 5 parts coffee, 5 parts vodka, and 2 parts simple syrup. So I don't use any coffee liqueur because, of course, the coffee liqueur is coffee with sugar.
Exactly.
So I try to have a very, very cold and strong coffee. And I always pre-batch. When I do my espresso martinis, I pre-batch them, meaning that I do them before.
Okay.
So very strong coffee, and then I mix that, and then I put it into the refrigerator. So if I'm going to serve that during the dinner,
ready to drink.
So it's ready to drink, but I have it in the refrigerator. Then when I serve it, I just shake it up with ice, and then you got, of course, the creaminess in the coffee, and then you serve that.
Yeah, I do that with my old-fashioned.
Yeah.
I pre-make it, and I put it to the freezer.
It's the best
Whenever
way.
I need it, I just pour a little bit.
Because the biggest mistake you usually do is that you have hot coffee and you bring that into the ice and the ice melts and you get sort of a semi-transparent espresso martini with no foam.
Right, and you change the whole flavor too.
And it's not an espresso martini, of course.
No.
In Sweden, we have a second one. So we actually we have something we call kaffejök. So kaffejök, that's the original espresso martini because it's just vodka and coffee. So in the old days, 100 years ago, when they were farmers, they took the coffee cup, they put a Swedish coin in the bottom of the coffee cup, they poured the coffee, and then they poured the vodka until you see the coin in the bottom of the cup, and then you knew that you had the right proportions between the vodka and the coffee, and that's called a kaffejök.
Kaffejök.
Kaffejök. Hey, good pronunciation.
Trying. No, that's awesome. Here, I think like when it comes to vodka, all we think about is just make a cocktail with it or take a shot. I know some of your product I was trying today, you can actually sip on it.
Yeah.
So how is it in Sweden or in Europe in general when it comes to vodka? How do you consume it? Is it just cocktail and shotting, or like how's it?
Yeah, more or less actually. Yeah.
Okay, so it's pretty much similar to here?
Yeah, the difference is that we shot vodka. So where I come from, of course, Sweden, it's a bit strange country because we eat the same food 3 times a year. So Christmas, Easter, and our midsummer celebration, which is in June, we have the same food.
Okay.
And we have,
what is that?
So it's like a smorgasbord of a lot of different things. So herring, salmon, etc. But what's in common as well is that we drink vodka or aquavit all the time to that as a shot. And in Sweden also we sing when we drink the shot. Nice. So that's very, very, so we have drinking songs. So, you know, Helan går, sjung upp för la 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 la. So for example, awesome. So you sing every time and you look each other in the eyes and then you take your shot. So that's in Sweden, the Swedish tradition of drinking vodka or aquavit and so forth. You sing and you drink in a shot glass. Then, of course, yes, doing any kind of vodka-based cocktails, of course, is same as you drink, here, of course, and or martinis, for example.
That's so much fun. I need to move to Europe now.
Yeah, you're welcome. The best thing you can do in Sweden, come for a midsummer party, and you realize that how Swedes party.
Really?
Because, you know, we dance around the midsummer pole, we dance as frogs, and we sing about the frogs, and we have fun.
Do you guys have like any type of unique festival, like you know how Oktoberfest is for like German? Is it something like that unique to Sweden?
That's midsummer.
Midsummer.
So the midsummer celebration is sort of the tradition in Sweden. So awesome. All the women dress up with the flowers in their hairs, and it's really, really nice. And of course, we celebrate that the summer is here. So that's
what's the timeline on that?
21st of June.
21st.
So always the 21st of June, or I think, or around there.
Okay, I'll book my flight.
Yeah, no, you're welcome. So midsummer in Sweden, that's something you need to experience.
Definitely put it in my bucket list.
Because you dance around and you have fun, and then you drink, and of course, usually it's a nice summer evening as well.
Yeah, I probably need few of these glasses to start dancing.
Absolutely.
Other than that,
Skål.
Skål. Skål. So we want to change the gear a little bit here. Going a little bit more towards the entrepreneurship. By the way, I can't not compliment this enough. Like, this is really good.
It is, isn't it?
It is.
It really, that explosiveness of the flavors, it really comes through, doesn't it?
Right.
And you can't believe that it's 57% alcohol. So
No.
what's that, 114 proof?
Yeah,
But it's so smooth.
it is. It's very smooth. It's very like, yeah, this is my new favorite now.
Thank
I'm gonna
you.
go. No, thank you.
Yeah, it is my favorite as well. And it's so much my favorite. So it actually, where it is, here. So the label is actually, the reason why, of course, it's my favorite is, so the label here is, everyone thinks it's the Scottish flags. And I always think, oh, what's connection with Scotland? Is that actually, this is the navy flag of the letter M, as in my name, Matthias, because this
Right.
is my favorite gin. So I put my own letter up
initial
there,
right on it, yeah.
initial there. I also made a joke with my brother, and I told him, "Oh, Martin," because Martin, my twin brother,
Yeah.
he's like, "Oh, you know, I like you so much." Da 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 da. So I made this to you, and for 1 second he believed me that it was actually that I loved him, but of course I didn't. But I love the gin, so that's why I wanted to
Like,
put
I
the
love my
mark on
gin
that.
more than my brother. Yes.
But that's how twins are, of course. You know,
I know.
we always fight.
Who's the older one?
I'm the older one,
Oh,
so
okay.
20 minutes. Never forget that.
20 minutes.
I learned everything during those 20 minutes.
Rule
All
of 20 minutes.
All twins will remember that.
Yes. Yes. We do have a rule of 20 minutes in wine, as I'm sure you know about it, for opening and like drinking the white or like red, that 20 minutes. Yeah. Anyway, so going back to what I was about to ask is getting a little bit more towards the entrepreneurship of the life. As you mentioned, you have been in different industry. For someone that is trying to start new to the entrepreneurship, especially living in the US, that there is so much opportunity. What is the message that you're gonna have for them? That one message that you want to deliver it to them, whether they are having difficulties right now with their business or they are lost, what would that be?
Big question. So I will answer it by always focus to do your best. So if you always focus on that, and I always focus to please the people, my love circle.
Okay.
So, you know, my wife, my family, my sisters, my brothers, my parents, my friends. So I always try to focus and say, I can't please everyone, but I
Right.
try to please my love circle and to do the absolute best possible product I can do. Because you can do a product, people can love it. People will always like quality and craftsmanship.
I agree.
So if you focus on that, you always have something to stand on. So it's easy to be an entrepreneur and optimistic, to run out and take shortcuts. The problem is that the shortcuts will come back as a boomerang in the end.
You're absolutely right.
So always focus on the details. Yes, it takes a lot of time. You need to think a lot. You do a lot of mistakes. You need to learn from the mistakes. But as long as you just focus on to do the important things and the best you can, then in the long run, that will always pay back.
You'll see the results.
Yeah, so that's my advice.
Absolutely.
So don't focus too much. Focus on your love circle, please them, and don't take shortcuts. Just be thorough in what you do and try to do the best things so you can really look everyone in the eyes and say, I've done the best I've done for my abilities, and I've actually really tried that. So that's my and then of course never give up.
Yeah.
When I do products, when I develop products, I always call it that you need to, before a product is perfect, it have had 99 lives, and you need to kill it 99 times before it's life 100. And of course, a product life 1, 5, 7, 12 is not perfect, because there's always things that you can add, you can change, you can polish it, and you need to ask people, you need to get other people's opinions. You don't need to take everyone's opinions into the product, but at least you need to ask them, and you need to be ready to kill your baby, as I call it, 99 times before it's perfect. So
that's good that basically you challenge your own product, and then I'm assuming you would have the highest expectation compared to anybody else.
Yeah.
So you keep challenging to see what you can create that would stand by your own standards?
I think that's super, super important.
That's
So
a
you
good
need
way.
to, you need to focus that, and of course people get really, really frustrated sometimes on that because it takes time.
Absolutely.
But it takes time, and you can't take any shortcuts. You need to stress test your ideas, and you need to be ready to restart and go in a different direction. Same thing when I did the gins, for example. You know, I tried to work with rosemary, but rosemary was too potent. It was too much flavor. So at the end of the day, it didn't become of the final selection because it was too much. So you need to be sort of test that and stress test it and continue. That's how I work with product development.
No, and I think it was a great advice. How do you overcome the tough times? Like when you were coming up, if it was a negativity from people around you or like competitors or people that they doubt your ability, how do you overcome those?
Yeah, that's a fantastic good question actually, because it comes all the time.
Absolutely.
People question you, and you know, some people, you know, say things, etc. My trick in the book is maybe not the best, but I just close my ears, and I focus on something that I really like. It can be small things, development work, design work, coming up with ideas, to clear that out. You always need to believe in yourself, that you have good ideas. That's a trick, but don't get sort of carried down. But you, of course, it's human. You get sad. You get, you know, sort of hurt when people question or say some things. But it's not the best way. If you would ask my wife, she would say it will be a terrible thing. But I just block my ears. I focus on something, and I just get energy from focusing on doing what I really love to do. And that energy that I get from that makes me taking those steps to go through further. So that's
so you basically ignore the bad voices.
Yes.
And you just instead keep focusing that.
And I find something that I really like, that I get energy from. So I think that is also the solution, that something that I really like. I like to cook, for example. So
nice.
For me, being in the kitchen and I'm doing really perfect squares of the potatoes,
that could be a therapy for you.
It's a therapy, but I get energy of that, and that energy then gives me fuel to manage and continue.
Nice. No, I think that's a good advice, and because if you don't get that energy, I feel like you have to have a really, really strong discipline in order to stick to what you're doing, because it's really hard, and sometimes it's very easy to get distracted.
Yeah,
people come to you, and then, and of course, like you said, you kill your product 99 times, so the 100 ones can be the best. And it's like the product number 1 or 2 is not gonna work, and if it does work for a time, it's gonna be a short time. Absolutely. And it's gonna come back and bite you. But going through all of that, you will understand that it's really easy to get distracted, get kind of like down and not trying anymore and just giving up.
Yeah.
So finding that energy and that source of energy to stick with it, I think is very important. Yeah. So thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you.
Of course. And
that's a good question. Thank you.
So in the following of that, now that of course, you're very successful. Your products are very, very successful here in US, and I'm sure they are successful in Europe as well. So now that you made it to that level, kind of like taking a flashback, how are you managing that? You proud of it? Is that the moment that you're like, okay, I feel like I made it? Or is it the moment that you want to go back to those people kind of like saying like, you know, screw you, I did it?
No.
Keeping that humble side.
To be successful, there's a lot of way to go before that. So we have a long journey ahead of us. But no. I think what's important in life is, of course, I love when people love my products, and that gives me energy, of course. Success, what's that? Success for me is, of course, when you say positive things about my gin. For me, that's super success. Being here in the store today and get all these wonderful questions and contacts, that's success. Success is not just making money or something like that. So, and I think that all those people I meet in my work that like my products, I can never end with that, because it makes me so happy to hear all of that, and that's given me really the energy to continue. Therefore, I love what I do, and I will continue. And in a couple of years, maybe we have double as many as bottles in front of us, because we have been a little bit creative in the distillery, finding new products. But there's so much to do all the time. And then, of course, as I see it, we have just started the journey.
Right.
I want everyone to understand that the copper surface distillation, your vodka, makes
the way
all the
to go.
Yeah, that makes all the difference. Leif, unfortunately, is not with us any longer, and I want to make him proud of what he gave to Purity, and to keep his legacy forward and live. So there's a lot of things to do.
That's a good purpose to have, is that legacy, to keep the legacy alive. I think it's great. Thank you for that. So coming back to the basically the product again, you mentioned at the first of the show that the gin is pretty much the flavored vodka.
Yes.
When do you think people start categorizing it differently? Like, or why do you think it's categorized different? That now, like, mango vodka doesn't have their own category, but Jupiter has their own category, which is gin.
Well, the benefit is, of course, being the first flavored vodka. So, of course, that was that was an advantage. Of course, everyone
was the first one.
Everyone remembers, of course, the first man on the moon.
Yes.
Because he was the first guy. So I think that is, of course. But then the importance with the gin is, of course, it's wheat based usually, and it's English by heritage from start, because that's where gin came from. It inherited, or it came from Geneva in Holland, and it became to UK. What they did, of course, is that to add the flavor to the vodka, because of course they were not the best distillers, they had no Stefan, so they needed to add, they added the botanicals, and they added sweetness. So the original style of gin was, of course, the Old Tom style of gin, so that have sweetness to it, so it was drinkable. So that's where, of course, it came about, all of that. And of course, all martinis in the beginning, everything was done on an Old Tom gin.
Yes.
And with sweet vermouth. So they were super sweet. They were not dry as we prefer them today. So they were super, super sweet. And gin became actually the first spirit that women drank in UK, in England. And it become very popular. Men drank beer, but a lot of people drank gin because it was such a new thing. So there was no tax on gin. So it was cheap to drink gin compared with beer, for example.
Nice.
So everyone drank gin instead, and a lot of women went from tea to gin, and they really liked that.
And as far as the healthiness of it, like compared to the rest of the spirits, it's less calorie.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No. So because of course in the vodka, when we do it, it's 96%. It's super pure. It's super clean. And then, of course, you add the botanicals to it. So if you're going to chase your calories, don't drink a gin and tonic with a regular tonic.
Right.
Because the sugar is in the tonic, not in the gin. So that's why, of course, On the Rocks gin with a twist of lemon or with a soda or something. That's the best thing you can drink. So, and the benefit also, of course, not. I will no. Don't quote me anything.
Right.
But what I will say, of course, is that because it's so clean and because it's 96%, compared with, of course, if you drink a brown spirit, you will feel better the day after because you don't have that much ingredients. You know, in a vodka, there's wheat, malted barley, and water. And the yeast, of course. There's not that many ingredients. So it's very, very clean and pure. And that's a good advantage, of course. If you just drink white spirits, you will feel better than if you would have been on brown spirit the day before. So
no, absolutely, I agree. So speaking of that and the calorie and being healthy and all of that, you know, there is a category in here in US that is growing like crazy, and that is non-alcoholic. I have seen non-alcoholic gin a lot. We don't see a non-alcoholic vodka.
No.
Why is that, and what do you feel about non-alcoholic in general?
I think it's a really good category. I think it's for people that don't want to drink alcohol. I think it's a fantastic category that it exists. Then, as in all categories, there are good brands and there are bad brands.
Of course.
You know, not always tastes nice just because it's non-alcohol, and of course how you distill it, etc. Why is there sort of similar things like gin, non-alcoholic? Is of course is that you get a lot of flavors from the botanicals. Of course, it's more or less in my understanding. It's more or less like it's a tea, in a way. So of course you flavor the water and it's nice. The flavor and the smoothness in a vodka, the alcohol does a lot, of course.
Yes.
Of course it will be good, but to drink, and you can probably laboratory-wise develop the flavors of the vodka and add that to the water, probably. But I think the alcohol flavor that comes from the process gives something. So I think that's why we don't see it. Because of course, when we do the vodka, of course, from the still it's 96%. Then we water it down with water to 40%. So of course we add a lot of water.
Right.
I could add water all the way down to 0.5, but you know then I'm drinking water.
Water, yeah.
So of course it's popular. Or
I have a friend and I always joke with her, and she always wants to drink like non-alcoholic. So whenever she comes and she asks me like, hey, I want a non-alcoholic vodka, I don't tell her what it is. I just pour water in a glass and I grab it for her. I'm like, drink it. And I think she jokes back with me because she always says, oh my God, this tastes so good.
Yeah.
Like there's something wrong with you.
No, but you know, what's alcohol-free gin and tonic? Well, pour some tonic and a lemon twist in your glass.
And water,
That's... You know, that's sort of a...
There you go.
So,
now you guys have it.
Yeah, that's it. So...
Awesome. So, you got to the vodka. Why vodka? Why you didn't start distilling whiskey? Why you didn't distill like, I don't know, like tequila? Tequila is growing here a lot.
Yeah.
Why you went for vodka?
Well, the problem with tequila is that it's done on agave,
and
and agave don't really like the Swedish climate, so we can take that away. Then, of course, Sweden as a nation, of course, is the home of vodka. You know, we are one of the really vodka countries. You know, you have Swedish vodka, you have Polish vodka, and you have Russian vodka. They are the three major areas of high quality vodkas, of course. So always in the tradition of the Swedish society, vodka has been the important thing. So that's why. Then the funny thing that happened over the last years is that there are very many successful gins from Sweden across the world in winning awards, etc. And I think the reason for that is that we have the tradition of doing good spirits that we then flavor. So I think, and it comes from the vodka sort of heritage of doing white spirits. So I think that's where it's coming from.
No, I'm a big fan, so I appreciate you and the team.
Thank you very
and
much,
Stefan. So if Stefan is watching this later,
yeah.
shout out to you, Stefan.
Stefan will like, yes.
We're gonna say cheers and skål.
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 Skål. Cheers.
Matthias, do you have any plan to coming up with any different product? Like, are we gonna see you ever making wine or whiskey or anything else in the future?
Wine, I can say no. Well, you should never say no. So of course, you never know. But you need to grow the wine first. But well, I've done whiskey.
Okay.
Yeah. So what is a whiskey? Very easy said. When a whiskey is a malted barley vodka that you put on barrels.
In the barrel, yeah.
So of course I needed to test that as well. So we distilled malted barley 34 times in our process, in our copper surface distillation, and we put that into bourbon barrels. And that was now 3.5 years ago. So in the distillery, we have a couple of barrels of the original Purity whiskey, a single malt, because everything was done at the estate, so it's there.
Have you tried it yet?
Absolutely.
Oh.
So that's the good. So you have the angel share of that you say they disappeared, but
Absolutely.
The master distiller and the master blender, they need to go and try and see how it tastes, of course, all the time.
That's awesome.
But it's really nice. So the whole idea is, of course, to see is that if you put super highly qualitative base spirit into the barrels, what does that do of the whiskey when it's aged?
To the taste and everything, yes.
Because of course a lot of the whiskey flavor comes from the barrels, so, but you use a white spirit that usually is not more than 80%, and of course our spirits is 96%.
Oh, wow.
So it's much more clean. That means, of course, that it doesn't contain as much dirt as a whiskey white spirit. It's more dirty. Our spirit is much more cleaner. So for us, of course, it's an experiment to see if we put high quality, super duper white spirit into the barrel, how will that develop over time? And already now it tastes fantastic, actually.
Yeah.
It's a very Highland style of whiskey, and it's super nice.
So
I invite you to the distillery and come.
I was about to say, I'm really hoping you guys keep me some for this June that I'm coming over.
Yeah, absolutely. You're welcome. No, you'll be able to pick your own samples out of the barrels and taste the different ones.
That would be
absolutely
lovely. Well, thank you so much. I know you're busy and just taking the time out of your day, coming over here and being on this podcast. That means a lot. I learned a lot today, and I appreciate you. I appreciate the entire team. And skål to you, my friend.
Well, skål to you.
Absolutely.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Skål.
Skål.
Wow. It is good. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. You're a star.